She's just a jogger, or so they thought. The bank lobby gleamed like a palace. Marble floors stretched beneath golden chandeliers, and behind thick glass doors, suited executives moved with importance. Phones buzzed. Documents were signed. Deals worth millions were made in this very room. No one noticed the woman outside. She stood alone, her reflection barely visible in the tall glass windows. A plain navy cap shaded her eyes. Running shoes, a windbreaker, and yoga pants clung to her like any other early riser out for a morning jog. Her silver blonde ponytail peeked out from the back of her cap. Her face, calm but focused, didn't betray her age, but her posture, her gaze, carried a quiet power. The security guard by the door gave her a once-over and looked away. Another jogger, he thought. Another lady with nothing better to do. But inside that woman's zipped jacket was a folded paper worth $15 million, and a mission to stop the takeover of a community treasure. And inside the bank, they were laughing. Not yet, not out loud, but soon they would be, laughing at her, mocking her, undermining her presence, her voice, her worth. Until he walked in. Until the man they only knew from headlines stepped through the door and shattered everything they thought they knew about power, status, and her. But right now, no one suspected a thing. Vanessa Carter wiped a small bead of sweat from her brow and took a long breath. Oakmount Bank loomed before her like a fortress. She used to walk past it every day before she married Richard Carter. Back then, she was just the bookstore lady. Just another woman who worked hard, minded her business, and was told, often, that she'd never make it. Now, she owned 6 successful businesses, helped start a scholarship program for underprivileged youth, and was the silent co-investor in 3 tech startups. But none of that mattered here, not with the way she looked today. She didn't dress for attention. She didn't walk in with diamonds or designer heels. And because of that, no one in that building would see her coming. That was the point. Vanessa checked the folded acquisition notice again. 30 days, she whispered, gripping it tightly. 30 days and everything changes. She reached for the brass handle and pulled the door open. The moment she stepped inside, the mood shifted slightly. Heads turned. Some looked away. A few furrowed their brows. She didn't fit the scenery. Not in this gleaming chamber of suits, leather shoes, and silk ties. She didn't belong here, and they made no attempt to hide that belief. The young woman at reception barely looked up from her computer. "Ma'am, do you have an appointment?" "No," Vanessa replied evenly. "But I'm here on an urgent matter. I'd like to speak to the branch manager about the pending sale of this institution." The receptionist blinked, clearly taken aback. "The sale," she echoed. "I'm sorry. Are you here to file a complaint?" "I'm here to present an alternative offer," Vanessa said calmly. There was a pause, an awkward silence, then a smirk. "One moment," the receptionist said. She picked up the phone, whispered something, and pointed toward the corner chairs. "You can wait there. Ms. Langston will see you shortly." Vanessa nodded and sat. She could hear them. They didn't even try to be quiet. Is she serious? What's she think this is? A bake sale? Probably wants to talk about her savings account. What, $50? She tuned them out. Her fingers brushed the photograph on the side table. It showed the bank during its grand opening in 1952, ribbon and all. Back then, it wasn't just about money. It was about community, service, trust. Somewhere along the way, all that changed. And Vanessa wasn't about to let it disappear without a fight. 15 minutes later, a tall, sharp-jawed woman in a slate-gray suit approached her. Her heels clicked with authority. "Ms. Carter, I'm Madison Langston, the branch manager. I understand you had some questions." "Yes, I'd like to discuss a direct purchase offer." Madison's eyes narrowed. "Of this branch?" "That's right," Vanessa replied. The laugh that escaped Madison's lips was small but sharp. "I see. Please, follow me." They walked past whispering tellers and smirking employees. Vanessa kept her eyes forward. Inside the manager's office, Madison didn't bother offering her a seat. She stood by the window, arms crossed. "Let me guess, you're upset about the closure. You want to save the bank. You've seen too many Hallmark movies." "No, I'm not here to save the bank out of sentiment. I'm here because I believe this community needs independent institutions that don't answer to some corporate machine, and because I'm prepared to buy this branch for $15 million. For the first time, Madison looked genuinely confused, then amused. "$15 million?" she repeated, as if the words had never been spoken aloud in her office before. "Yes." Madison chuckled and walked behind her desk. "Ma'am, banking acquisitions involve legal teams, regulatory clearance, background checks." "I've done this before," Vanessa said, "and I have the backing. My husband and I are prepared to make the purchase privately. I'm here to make the initial offer." Madison's grin widened. "And what exactly does your husband do?" "He's in finance." "Oh, let me guess," she said with a smile that barely concealed her sneer. "Tax season hero. Works out of the garage. Part-time with TurboTax." "No," Vanessa said, without blinking. "Richard Carter." The name meant nothing to Madison. "Yet. You're serious," the manager said, shaking her head in disbelief. "Okay. All right. So you and your husband, who I assume also jogs in gym shorts and baseball caps, want to buy out a bank that National Holdings is already acquiring. Do you even know what you're getting into?" "I know exactly what I'm getting into," Vanessa said. "And I know the deal with National Holdings isn't finalized yet. You still have the option to consider counteroffers, don't you?" Madison's laughter echoed through the glass walls. Two male executives peeked in, clearly entertained. One even mouthed "unbelievable" as they walked by. "I think we're done here," Madison said. "And in the future, Miss Carter, I'd suggest you make an appointment and maybe dress a bit more appropriately if you want to be taken seriously." Vanessa stood. She met the manager's eyes, unwavering. "It's not my outfit that lacks professionalism today, Miss Langston." Before Madison could respond, the door swung open. A tall man entered. The room went still. Even the reception phones stopped ringing. His suit was crisp charcoal. His watch, a custom platinum piece rarely seen outside of luxury auctions, glinted under the light. His salt and pepper hair was perfectly styled. But it was the presence that struck like lightning. Quiet, controlled power, the kind of presence that needed no introduction. But he gave one anyway. "Good morning," Richard Carter said. "I hear my wife is being treated like she doesn't belong here. That's unfortunate, because this bank already does. You mocked the wrong woman. Now she owns the building." Silence choked the air like fog in a valley. The marble-floored lobby, once buzzing with smug laughter and whispered jabs, had gone still. The same employees who had just moments ago mocked the jogger in dusty sneakers now stared at the man beside her, speechless. Richard Carter. For some, the name still hadn't clicked. But for those who recognized it, those who had followed the financial markets, who read Forbes, who knew the difference between millionaire and billionaire, the room suddenly felt too small. Madison Langston's perfectly powdered face lost all color. She opened her mouth. Nothing came out. Mr. Carter," she stammered. I wasn't informed that my wife was here," Richard replied, his voice smooth and controlled. "No, you weren't. Because she didn't come here today as my wife. She came as a concerned citizen, a businesswoman, and a woman who, in this case, made you an incredibly generous offer." He stepped further into the room. His leather shoes echoed with every step. All eyes were on him and her. Vanessa stood calmly, arms at her sides, like nothing about this moment surprised her. "But you all laughed at her," Richard continued, eyes sweeping across the gathered staff. "Dismissed her, mocked her. Because of what? The way she dressed. That she didn't walk in here flashing designer labels or dragging a briefcase. No one answered. A bead of sweat rolled down the temple of one of the younger executives. Another employee who had earlier whispered, "Does she think this is a gym?" now looked down at her keyboard, hands trembling. Vanessa turned slightly to Richard. "I didn't want you to come," she said softly. "I know," he replied. "But you shouldn't have had to face this nonsense alone." James Horton, the regional director who had earlier smirked at Vanessa, now stepped forward with a shaky smile. "Mr. Carter, I, of course, had no idea this was your wife. I assure you this is all just a big misunderstanding." Richard raised an eyebrow. "A misunderstanding?" He tilted his head. "Because I heard at least 3 different people laugh when she mentioned a $15 million offer. That's not misunderstanding. That's mockery." James swallowed. "Yes. Well." Vanessa finally spoke, her voice calm but clear. "This is why communities are losing trust in institutions like these. You make assumptions. You prioritize appearances. You fail to listen." James nodded quickly. "Yes, of course. I fully understand now. But the matter of the sale. National Holdings has already begun the acquisition. Our hands are not tied," Richard interrupted. "Not yet. Not until the ink is dry. We've already spoken with a member of the board, and they are quite interested in our counteroffer." Madison's jaw tightened. "But with all due respect, Mr. Carter, this isn't just about money. There are processes, approvals, stakeholders." "You think I don't know that?" Richard's voice dipped just slightly, enough to send a shiver across the room. "I bought a failing bank out of bankruptcy when I was 29. Turned it into the 7th largest tech finance lender in North America. I don't need a lecture on acquisition logistics from someone who can't even greet a potential buyer without rolling her eyes." There it was. The sting. The room inhaled as one. Madison took a half step back. I apologize for my behavior. I truly didn't know." "But you didn't need to know," Vanessa cut in. "You didn't need to know who I was married to, or how many zeros I could write on a check. You just needed to treat me with respect." Richard nodded toward his wife. "Vanessa is not just the woman I love. She is my equal partner in business. We co-manage a portfolio worth nearly $2 billion. She's negotiated 7-figure real estate deals, invested in renewable energy firms, and owns 2/3 of a publishing company. She is the kind of person you should hope walks into your bank." Someone gasped softly. Vanessa stepped forward. "I came here because I care about this place, not just the building, the people. Mrs. Talley, who walks 2 blocks every week to deposit her pension. Mr. Gupta, whose loan from this bank helped him start his diner. You all were about to sell this branch off like scrap metal and didn't think twice about what it meant for Oakfield." James cleared his throat again. "We may have rushed things. Perhaps we can reevaluate the offer." Richard reached into his inner jacket pocket and pulled out a sleek black folder. "This," he said, placing it on the front desk, "is our proposal. $15 million. Immediate transfer. We retain existing staff, those who wish to stay, and rebrand the bank as a community-first financial institution. No closures, no layoffs." Madison blinked. "You'd really pay more than the corporate offer, just to keep this place running?" Vanessa looked her in the eye. "It's not just a place. It's a lifeline for hundreds of families." The lobby fell into a quiet hum of tension. An older teller, Ms. Nancy Winters, slowly stepped forward, clutching her lanyard. "Mrs. Carter. Ms. Carter, thank you. I've been here 27 years. My daughter's college fund started with this bank. I didn't want to lose what this place means to us." Vanessa smiled gently. "That's why we're doing this, Nancy. Because you're the heart of this building. Not the furniture, not the walls, not the profits." James nodded quickly, trying to regain his footing. "We will, of course, need to hold a meeting with the board to finalize. Our attorneys are already drafting the revised contract." Richard said. "We'll deliver it to your board of directors within the hour." "And if they refuse?" Madison asked weakly. Vanessa's reply was swift and quiet. "Then I'll build a better bank across the street, and I'll bring every customer from this one with me." Madison lowered her eyes. For the first time, she truly understood. This wasn't some feel-good charity stunt. This was power, not loud, not arrogant, but purposeful, earned, and unstoppable. Richard turned to go, but paused. "One more thing," he said. "We will review the security footage of this morning's interactions. Anyone who laughed at or belittled my wife will be reviewed for professionalism. Any attempt at cover-up will be noted." "Sir," James started, but the warning look in Richard's eyes froze him. "We're not here for revenge," Vanessa said gently, looking at the stunned staff. "But we are here for accountability." As she and Richard walked toward the exit, the room parted again like the sea. But this time, no one mocked her shoes. No one whispered behind her back. They watched the woman who, just an hour ago, they saw as just a jogger, now walk out as the owner of the building. And none of them would ever forget it. She walked out with the deed, but left behind a lesson they'd never forget. 2 weeks later, a crisp spring breeze floated through Oakfield's downtown streets. Flower vendors were setting up outside the market. The scent of brewing coffee filled the air. Everything looked the same on the surface. But everything had changed. The shiny plaque that once read Oakfield Community Bank, a division of National Holdings, had been removed. In its place gleamed a new sign, bold and simple. The People's Bank, powered by Carter Capital. Inside, the marble lobby was still spotless, but the atmosphere, completely different. No tension, no pretentious whispers, no judgmental stares. The front desk, where Vanessa Carter had once stood in gym clothes, mocked and dismissed, was now staffed by a young woman in jeans and a polo shirt, welcoming every customer with a smile. The same security guard who had reluctantly been asked to escort Vanessa out 2 weeks prior now stood proudly near the door, his posture straighter, his smile genuine. He greeted every elderly visitor by name. And at the heart of it all, Vanessa Carter. But today, she wasn't in joggers. She wasn't in diamonds either. She wore a simple blazer, jeans, and sneakers, the same calm, unshakable confidence in her stride. She walked the lobby with purpose, nodding at employees, exchanging warm words with customers. This wasn't just business anymore. It was personal. Mrs. Carter, Nancy Winters, the senior teller, waved. "You've got to come see the community board. It's already filled up." Vanessa smiled and walked over. A large bulletin board near the exit, once covered with sterile marketing posters, now showcased handwritten thank you notes, local business cards, drawings from children, and even a wedding announcement from a young couple who'd just been approved for their first mortgage. A sticky note caught Vanessa's eye, written in shaky cursive. "Thank you for saving my bank. Mrs. Talley, 87 years young." Vanessa blinked, touched. She remembered Mrs. Talley. The woman had walked into the branch just yesterday, not for business, but just to see if it was still open. It was. And now it always would be. But as Vanessa turned to head toward the new community lending office, a voice called from behind her. "Mrs. Carter, may I have a word?" She turned. It was Madison Langston. The same branch manager who'd once scoffed at her, rolled her eyes, and laughed at the thought of a woman in running shoes trying to buy a bank. Today, Madison stood in a modest blouse, her hair pulled back neatly, her tone quieter. She looked different. Not in appearance, in attitude. Vanessa nodded. Of course. They walked to one of the side offices, now a shared workspace. No more closed-door hierarchy. The room had been redesigned with transparency in mind. Glass walls, open bookshelves, a single round table. Madison sat, folding her hands. "First, I want to thank you for not firing me." Vanessa leaned back, arms crossed, but not defensively. "I didn't come to this town to punish people. I came to restore something. Madison nodded slowly. I was wrong. The way I treated you. I've replayed that day a dozen times. The way we all looked at you, like you were nothing. There was a pause, one filled with unspoken regret. Vanessa broke the silence. Why do you think that happened? Madison looked down. Because I assumed. I thought I knew who you were the moment I saw you. And because, honestly, this job got to my head. The title. The office. I forgot what it was all for. Vanessa leaned forward. Let me tell you something, Madison. When I first opened my bookstore years ago, I walked into a bank like this, dressed just like I was the other day. I asked for a loan. They laughed me out the door. You know what the loan officer said. Madison shook her head. He said, "Come back when you look like someone who belongs here." Madison winced. I promised myself that day that if I ever had the power to change things, I would. Not just to prove them wrong, but to make sure no one else had to feel that small again. Madison's eyes brimmed. You've done that. Everyone can feel it. The staff's happier. The customers are staying. And I want to be part of it. The right way. Vanessa smiled. Then prove it. You've got experience. Use it to mentor others. Build trust. Be the kind of leader this bank and this community deserves. Madison nodded with quiet determination. I will. As Vanessa stood to leave, she added, and Madison, next time someone walks in wearing joggers and sneakers, remember, that might just be your next boss. They both laughed softly. Across town, in a high-rise boardroom, executives from National Holdings sat in stunned silence. The final sale documents had arrived that morning. Signed, sealed, canceled. Their offer had been outbid, outpaced, and outmaneuvered in less than 48 hours, all by a woman they hadn't even considered a competitor. The CEO of National Holdings tossed the acquisition folder on the table. Who the hell is Vanessa Carter? He muttered. A younger VP cleared his throat nervously. She's Richard Carter's wife. The CEO's eyes narrowed. So why wasn't I told? She didn't come in under his name, the VP replied. She came on her own. No legal team, no PR stunt. Just walked into the bank and made an offer. The CEO scoffed. In gym clothes. The room fell silent again. That was all anyone could say. Back in Oakfield, word of the Carter acquisition had spread. Not from press releases or headlines, but through whispers at barbershops, announcements at church, and stories exchanged over family dinners. Did you hear? The jogger lady owns the bank now. I heard she's married to a billionaire. Nah, she's the rich one. He just follows her lead. 2 weeks later, a special community event was held outside the bank. Families gathered under string lights. Food trucks lined the sidewalk. A local band played covers of old Motown songs. Children danced. Retirees sipped lemonade. Vanessa stood at the small podium near the bank entrance. She didn't use a microphone. She didn't need one. I want to thank all of you, she began, for believing in something bigger than money. This building, this team, this mission, it's all because of people like you. She glanced at Mrs. Talley in the front row. Mr. Gupta with his teenage son, Nancy. Even Madison stood off to the side, smiling humbly. We live in a world that tells us success looks a certain way, that you have to wear the right clothes, speak the right jargon, belong to the right circles. But that's not true. Respect, kindness, wisdom, those are not earned by wealth. They're earned by character. She paused, eyes scanning the crowd. So the next time someone walks into your life and doesn't look the part, don't laugh. Don't assume. Listen, that person might just change your world. The crowd burst into applause. Richard stepped beside her, wrapping an arm gently around her waist. You always did have a way with words, he whispered. She smiled. And you always knew when to show up. Teamwork, he said with a grin. Later that evening, as they walked home hand in hand through the quiet Oakfield streets, Vanessa looked up at the stars. "Funny," she murmured. "All I wanted that morning was a peaceful jog. Instead, I bought a bank." Richard chuckled. "And taught a town how to see people differently." They stopped outside their gate. The porch light glowed warmly. Their dog barked from inside, tail wagging. Vanessa turned to him, her voice soft. "Do you think they'll remember?" Richard looked back toward the distant lights of the bank. "Oh, they'll remember. They'll remember the woman in running shoes who walked in with a heart full of purpose and walked out owning everything." Never underestimate someone based on how they look. True power often walks quietly. Respect is earned by character, not appearance. And sometimes, the strongest people don't wear suits. They wear sneakers.